Christmas Carol, the first of the three spirits. Ephesians 5:8. For at one time you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. Scrooge awakes during the night and is confused about the time. He remembers the ghost of Marley and his forewarning of the three spirits. A light flashes beyond the curtains of his bed, and a hand draws them back. It is a man, and he introduces himself as the ghost of Christmas past. The spirit is a shapeshifter, weaving in and out of various physical forms. Atop his head is a shining bright light. Scrooge is bothered and irritated by the light. I believe this is symbolic of people living in darkness. People who live in darkness tend to feel extremely uncomfortable when confronted with light. Light is a symbol of exposing things we hide in the dark. I believe in this scene, Scrooge does not want to see the light, and he does not want to confront his past. Scrooge begs the spirit to extinguish his light. He asks him to cover his head with the cap he carries. The spirit protests against this, asking Scrooge why he would want to put out the light he is offering. In essence, why would Scrooge want to extinguish something that has been sent to make his life better? Without the gift of light, one cannot see what is hidden in the dark. In Scrooge's case, the dark represents his past, and the spirit is there to reclaim it. Sometimes in life, reclamation is necessary to retrieve a former forgotten self, to view our past behavior and change our future ways. Confronting the light, or the spirit, will give Scrooge redemption for his wicked ways. Perhaps we can learn a lesson from the spirit of light. When Christ convicts us or exposes our past to us, we can learn to change our ways. This in turn can open the door to a brighter future. The Spirit's light also reminds me of the following verses in Matthew regarding a believer's spirit. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew 5:15-16. When we have the light of Christ, we no longer want to live in the dark. We are filled with the Holy Spirit. Scrooge continues to battle with the presence of the Spirit. He asks what purpose the Spirit has in visiting him. The Spirit explains he is there for Scrooge's welfare. Here, Scrooge reminds me of someone who is wrestling with conviction from the Holy Spirit. Scrooge does not want to be held accountable for his bad behavior. However, he must endure the visits of the three spirits for enlightenment. If not, Scrooge will be subject to eternal damnation like his old partner, Jacob Marley. 2 Corinthians 5:10 reads, For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body, according to what he has done, whether good or bad. Scrooge is taken back in time to see himself as a schoolboy at a boarding school. His sister Fan visits and takes him home to stay with their father, who has reconciled his heart towards Scrooge. Fan later dies after giving birth to a son, Fred, Scrooge's nephew. Before she dies, Fan asks Ebenezer to look after her son and care for him. Scrooge adores his sister and becomes embittered by her death. In a way, we can see Scrooge blames his nephew Fred for his sister's death. He detests Fred's marriage to Lily and believes he is naive in the way he lives his life. Marrying for love and happiness instead of money. Bah! Humbug! This is similar to the way Scrooge's father mistreated him as a boy. Scrooge's father blamed him for the death of his mother. She died giving birth to Scrooge. In life, are we guilty of blaming God when things don't go as planned, or when we experience heartache? It may seem like a logical emotion to blame God and become angry with him. After all, he is the one in control of life's circumstances. However, we must keep in mind that sin and evil are still prevalent in this world, and no one is exempt from Satan's devious attacks. Therefore, it is much better to go through life's difficult times with God than without him. Proverbs 3:5-6 reads, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." Next, the Spirit takes Scrooge to a happier time in life. It is a time when Scrooge is a young man, working as an apprentice for Mr. Fezziwig, the proprietor of a warehouse business. Old Fezziwig is a kind-hearted, jolly fellow who treats Scrooge well. He spreads joy and laughter to everyone around him. While revisiting his past, Scrooge witnesses a Christmas party hosted by Mr. Fezziwig. The party is a gift offering in honor of the Christmas holiday. It is for the enjoyment of Mr. Fezziwig's employees, their families, and his close friends. Mr. Fezziwig's generosity represents Christ's gift of salvation to everyone. It's free to anyone who asks and is willing to accept Jesus. Ephesians 2:8 reads, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God." Another promising verse is Romans 10:13, "For whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." As Scrooge observes the festivities, he unwittingly begins to laugh. He becomes filled with joy. He is happy and giddy at everything he sees. He is being drawn into the party as if really being there. He is exceedingly excited and feels like a young boy again. Isn't that what it is like when we are filled with the Holy Spirit? Isn't that what it is like when we discover Christ's love for the first time? Yes, I believe it is. Seeing Mr. Fezziwig give the party enlightens Scrooge about the fact that his old boss had the power to make his employees happy or to make them sad. He was able to create a pleasant work environment or an unpleasant one. Mr. Fezziwig made the burdens of his employees light by offering the gift of his merry self. Dickens wrote about old Mr. Fezziwig. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. Scrooge, in quoting this, becomes melancholy about the way he has treated his clerk, Bob Cratchit. He tells the Spirit, "I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now. That's all." The Spirit then brings Scrooge to a bittersweet time when he is engaged to Belle, a poor woman much like Lily, the woman his nephew Fred married. We soon see Scrooge is more earnestly invested in the art of making money than he is invested in his relationship with Belle. She finds herself alone and unable to compete with Scrooge's ambitions. She realizes she has been replaced by a golden idol of money. The Bible warns against greed. It is a form of idolatry. Greed promises satisfaction, but it never satisfies. Greed spoils joys in life. It is a slave master, ruins relationships, and prevents us from relying on God's faithfulness. Inevitably, Belle releases Scrooge from the engagement, even though she loves him. She tells him he fears the world too much. Her statement means that Scrooge has a fear of failure and that his pursuit of money is a way of controlling the world around him. For Scrooge, wealth means prestige, power, and prominence. These have become first in his life before love and relationships. As a result of Belle's release of him, Scrooge once again is embittered. I believe his pride is more offended than his love for Belle. His love for money slithered between them and replaced her. Mark 8:36 reads, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world, and loses his own soul. In the final scene, the spirit takes Scrooge to a home where he sees Belle with her husband. She has a daughter and has found true happiness. Scrooge is heartbroken and cannot bear to look. He regrets having put his love for money in place of his beautiful Belle. He begs the spirit to remove him from the home. The spirit warns Scrooge that these memories are a part of his past that he created, decisions he made of his own free will. They cannot be undone or unseen. Scrooge cannot bear it any longer and tells the spirit, "Haunt me no longer." He takes the spirit's cap, places it over the light above his head, and extinguishes it. At the beginning of this blog, we discovered the symbolism of light versus dark. Scrooge wanting to extinguish the light above the spirit's head is a way for him to avoid exposure from the past. The cap which the spirit carries is symbolic of the burden of darkness which Scrooge carries with him daily. The spirit's presence is symbolic of enlightenment. Without enlightenment, Scrooge will continue in darkness eternally. Scrooge's defiance of the spirit's visit is his need to control his life. He has settled into a life of misery and solitude and is unwilling to allow the spirit control over his destiny. Scrooge has suppressed memories from his past. The spirit is there for his welfare. Sometimes, if we do not confront our past, we may be destined to repeat it. We must learn to change our ways by reliving some of the bad things we have done. Ask God for forgiveness, and don't allow unforgiveness of yourself to stand in the way of being the person God has called you to be. Also, don't allow another person's unforgiveness to overwhelm you. Their unforgiveness is not your concern. Psalm 103:12 reads, "As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us." Move forward. Don't live in the past. Change for the better. Blog written by Annah Crawford, read by Nancy Call.